I have a plan. Oh no! My plan's already been foiled. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm leaving, yeah. I have done a lot of sculptures in my day. I've done this, and this, and this, and this. Every time I do a sculpture, I have to do the framework, and that's usually with armature wire and tin foil. And that usually bulks it out so I can put clay or whatever medium on top. But I've always wondered how cool you could make a sculpture with just those things. So that's what we're gonna muck around with today. As a kid, this was my first ever foil sculpture project. You ready? Hey Gareth, who am I?
Han Solo, in carbonite.
Nailed it. This is my canvas. What do I make?
Pikachu.
Done. One Pikachu coming right up, sir. I feel like I'm making a balloon out of me, but lumpy. And there we have Pikachu.
That actually looks alright.
Does it?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll look better like two-dimensional. Even that looks slightly like Pikachu. This is rubber. It melts, doesn't it? Does it? I swear to God, this might be relevant later. It does like a cool surfacing, sort of creates an interesting matte, uniform, flat look. What about the thin foil? Whoa, that's weird and cool. What is this? A huge tangent is what it is, but it's cool. So what did we learn? Not much. What have other people made with tin foil? Oh, Zach, ZHC, has done foil sculpting with his team. That's a cool owl. I like the wings, that the wings aren't clumped up foil. So I like the mixture of texture, because that's the hard thing about foil is like everything can look pretty flat if everything looks scrunched up. Bobby Duke! Bobby Duke's done foil. Oh no! I don't stand a chance! Oh, he painted it. That's a cool idea. So, I made a Pikachu. I think what I learned from the Pikachu is small ain't gonna cut it. These are industrial rolls of foil, and I have quite a few of them. So, I think we've done little. I think next we do medium to learn a little bit. I think we finish off with big. Now, getting stuck into the process, it was familiar and I was confident because this was basically building an armature and padding it out like I do anytime I sculpt with clay. And it's a satisfying process, creating the blocking of a figure and a pose, trying to create a dynamic aesthetic, and the malleability of the foil, especially in these early stages, is really fun. Then I started to hit some barriers. As soon as I got to the stage where I would have wanted to start adding clay, I needed to add foil instead to see if I could make a sculpture. And it's hard and yuck looking. This is not easy to get a refined look. In fact, it's near impossible. You can't have a smooth surface texture, especially with it all scrunched up, and it keeps loosening because it has nothing really to grab onto but itself. So it's a constant compromise between scrunching up and adding mass to areas that you want, which you know are going to fall out unless you wrap fully around the model, which might mean you're adding too much mass to other areas. It's awful. This is awful. I will not be bested by you, the foil. You will not foil my plans.
You've already used that joke
in
the video.
I do, yeah. Did I?
You did, that's how it started.
Don't foil my voiceover, Gareth. I tried so hard to get some sort of passable surface texture by painting on and layering the foil. But it's always gonna feel irritating because it's always gonna flap up in weird places and not stick fully and still not look smooth or the way I want it because of the crumple of the foil and its reflectiveness. And it's awful. And I hate it. But I will not be bested. I'm gonna find a way to figure this out. But let's at least see how far we can take our weird, derpy dinosaur. I'm hitting an impasse. The pose is cool, but when it comes to detail and surfacing, everything falls apart and I need to find some solutions. So how do I get refine detail, like especially when like an area like the head, I've compacted this, so it's quite dense. So now to add detail or do any shaping is really hard. That's why people put clay on top, because this is great to put clay on top. I want to figure out some workarounds or solutions to create some semblance of detail and surface that, even if it doesn't look refined, looks like it uses the medium to its strengths. So, solutions. Hot glue, PVA glue, stick stuff on it. That's one solution. Let's try paper macheing with foil on foil. This is frustrating because it's almost cool, but it's just not. Especially when you get to the edges. Like even if you put glue all the way to the edges, you just get these little flippy flaps everywhere, and it's very irritating. All right, what do we do? Probably what we put in the thumbnail and title, which I haven't figured out yet. What are the strengths we have to work with? Organic shapes? No. What about like flat sheets? I actually like the folding, like the Pikachu thing. What I learned from that is the layering does make more stability. So what if we created like multi-layered sheets where we like fold it over itself, and rather than just working with a single sort of sheet of foil at a time and hammer it flat. This feels like I could work with it. Feels like I could cut plates or sheets of metal and potentially get a refined look of something that's more like robotic or metallic. And it gives me the ability to like create plates that I stack. I mean, that's got to be the approach. So we do like some sort of robot. Before we pick our dive, let's head out of the warehouse. I also want to see if I can paint this up. So I'm thinking, let's just try bit of color on top. I mean, that's more extreme than I expected to go. I'm not sure I like it, but I don't hate it. Let's try sugar on top. So in theory, if I like fill in some of these under areas, I mean, that's creating at least a little interesting, like, I don't know, variation. Look, it's not the best thing I've ever made, but I've learned a few things from it, and it does look kind of cool with a bit of color or shading on top. You need to go big, because small is where you lose all the detail, and it's really hard to get it to work. You can't add detail. And metal, like sheets of metal, like 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago, I made the Iron Giant in virtual reality. I reckon I could do that with tin foil. Maybe not the whole, maybe just like, but like the Superman. And then he could go up there as a statue to add to my collection of ridiculous giant statues. Iron Giant time! All right, it's game time, people. I'm gonna take the learnings I've had and put them into practice. With Murray's help, I laid out layer after layer of foil and PVA glue. The idea being that with 5 or 6 layers of this at a time, when it dries, I might have much more malleable pieces of thick foil that I can cut and use as plates on a metallic, rigid looking structure. In theory, if it holds its shape just a little bit more, even the rough surface areas and that highly reflective look will be complementary to the robotic design that I'm going to be creating. Now it's time to put my bloody serious face on. I will not be defeated by any medium that seeks to get the best of me. I started the same way that I've started every other aluminium armature and sculpture. Wire and foil. I did use some large metal stands, basically to add weight and structure to the bottom that I could build on top of. I allowed myself that much at least. But other than that, it was just aluminium, foil, wire, and glue. I'd approach this in chunks, building the chunk of the torso and then chunks of the arms, noting of course from my references where there was a ball joint and where there were arm like lengths that looked sort of like hydraulic things, cylinders that I would later attach and glue to the spheres that I'd scrunched up. Approaching a fairly basic and rigid geometric character like the Iron Giant was probably the best way I could go about this, but that doesn't make it easy. And now that I've started to put the subgroups together of the different pieces, I started to piece together the whole, putting the arms together and then on the Iron Giant. It was starting to have a bit of a shape and silhouette that made sense, and I was also starting to have my doubts. I hope this is going to be one of those projects that just becomes really immediate how cool it is and what it is in the last like 10% of it. But the structure process is always really hard. And just like with building any sculpture with the aluminium underness, that's the technical term for it. Armature, that's actually the technical term for it. It looks ugly until it doesn't. I'm crossing my fingers hard for this one because I don't know. I just don't know. Now I have to say, it was all actually starting to feel like it might work. It was coming together as I was creating a surface with that rigid structure of the Iron Giant. Now where he had some very specifically boxy sections like on his arms and later on his chest, rather than eyeballing it, I made some templates. By drawing out in cardstock, cutting out and taping that together to check that the shapes worked, and then cutting out those shapes in the foil for this structure. That way I wasn't cheating by using anything other than adhesives and foil, but I was at least making something that I was fairly confident would hold its shape because I'd pre-planned it. And now on to the finishing touches, and these actually brought the Iron Giant to life. The Superman logo on his chest was not actually a Superman logo, it's an S from, okay, I don't know how many people have seen the Iron Giant. It's fairly underrated and most people in the studio here haven't seen it, but the Iron Giant likes Superman. He looks up to Superman. He wants to be a superhero, and he finds an S from the junkyard and puts it on his chest so that he can be I'm Superman. So with that in there, and then as I put the face together, and the fact that I'd also separated these areas with a little bit of spray paint here and there just to help the main structure and different areas stand out, it was starting to work pretty well for me. Now, it may not be the Iron Giant, but I think it's at least the Iron Giant you have at home. And there you have it, I did it. I conquered aluminium foil, or aluminum, or whatever you want to call it. I call it a surprising success that did come in at the 11th hour. It doesn't need all of the fancy effects and smoke machine to disguise it. I think it looks all right. I'm pretty chuffed with it. In fact, I'm going to put him in a place of honor right up there so I can see him every day from a distance. I think that's where it will look best. This was really fun. I hope you enjoyed the fun with me. I never want to work with aluminium foil again. You enjoyed coming along the journey with me. Hit the like button. It does help the channel. And if you did want to see more stuff we do, subscribe. And everything else that everyone says in every video ever. I know you've already tuned me out. I know. I'm talking the same crap at the end of another video. Bye!